Konnichiwa, hajimemashite, kunioji desu, and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz. And today, I've got something very special for you guys, because we are looking at the brand new Tier 8 French Premium Medium, the M4A1 Sherman Revalorise, or pretty much just M4A1 Sherman Revolver, Reva whatever, or whatever you guys want to call this Rev hyphenation. But anyway, this tank kind of just feels that it's very hard to play. It's just a glass cannon. It's kind of like a turreted tank destroyer, but it's fast. It's got a fully rotating turret. It's not like those American turreted TDs, wherein it has a limit of only around like 90 degrees of traverse or something like that. But the Revalorise is kind of very unique in its way. It's a glass cannon, it's got the armor of a Sherman, which is basically useless, and at times it's going to bounce because of this mantlet right here. And quite frankly, I really experienced some bounces around my mantlet, at least in the area, or when you try to hold it down, or when they try to shoot this area around here. So first, let's go take a look and compare the Revalorise and take a look at its armor and other stats before we get into some more gameplay. So here we are, and we are comparing the Revalorise with the CDC and the FCM. Now, just for the record, I am also comparing it with the Firefly just to see just how different the movement or the mobility category is between the two tanks. So firepower wise, we can see that the Revalorise is the weakest at the DPM, the penetration, the rate of fire, reload, and shell velocity category than the CDC or the FCM, but it's got the highest alpha at 310. But do note that given that the Revalorise has a higher caliber gun, the rate of fire and reload is weak at 9.27 for reload and 6.48 for the rate of fire. However, it will be improved if you mount a gun rammer on it somehow, but not to the extent of it too much. For weapon handling, we can see that the aim time, it's considerably weaker than the CDC. The dispersion is also going to be a problem, but it's got a lot better aim time and dispersion than the FCM, and as well as the gun depression at 10 degrees and 20 degrees. And what makes this is that the Revalorise is somehow flexible when it comes to shooting back at the enemy, but it's not as flexible as the CDC though. But the dispersion on movement is absolutely a lot better than the CDC. And also, if we'll compare the Revalorise with the Firefly, the gun depression is a big difference at 6 degrees for the Firefly. Now, if you guys are going to ask me which category the Firefly needs to be buffed at, it's the gun depression, because I honestly felt that with the Firefly at 6 degrees and the Revalorise at just 10 degrees, and both tanks are basically almost similar in terms of performance, I think I see that the Firefly could use a gun depression buff. I'd absolutely be happy if they gave it an 8 degrees of buff, but anyway, moving on. Mobility wise, we can see that the Revalorise is obviously the weakest than the CDC or the FCM, given that the Revalorise is basically just the Sherman Firefly, but with a bigger gun. And here it is, we're comparing the Firefly with the Revalorise, and we can see the power to weight ratio and effective horsepower per ton is a lot better on the Revalorise than the Firefly. And the terrain resistance, however, is not really... It's kind of like the Revalorise gets frowned upon in terms of the terrain resistance. And pretty much there's nothing much I can really say except that the Revalorise and the Firefly are basically just Shermans, but the Revalorise's got a little bit more of an improved engine, so it's already expected that the Revalorise goes a bit faster, but not in terms of the CDC or FCM expectations. So as much as possible, what I could say is that the Revalorise, you're gonna have to play the Revalorise a bit very carefully, because you can't really run away unlike the two other tanks right here, and especially that you have to choose where you need to advance. You have to have decent backup and so on and so forth. Revalorise is a lot better, however the hit points at just 1490 maximum is not really that good. Armor, I was actually surprised, and I thought that the CDC might have a little bit of better armor than the Revalorise, but of course, but now it just seems that the CDC's got a lot weaker armor than the Revalorise, and certainly not the best when compared to the FCM, and no difference than the Sherman Firefly. Now, there's one thing I'd like to note about on the V-Range before we get back onto the game, because the Revalorise, when you mount like binoculars on the Revalorise, it makes it quite an effective spotter, and quite frankly, whenever I go onto certain spotting positions where I could put myself and spot the rest of the enemy trying to come across the map, the Revalorise kind of does that job rather well, and quite frankly, it's gonna come in useful, especially when there's basically no one that's willing to spot the enemy for you guys, and as well as you've got to utilize this view range of 269, but when it gets buffed with binocs, it gets around 290 or nearly 300, and that's already amazing for a medium tank for its tier. So anyway, the Revalorise in a nutshell is it's just a more flexible Sherman Firefly. It can have the ability to spot ahead of time, but the firepower is something that you need to watch out. It kind of reminds me of the Charioteer, which is on World of Tanks PC, is a tier 8 turreted tank destroyer for the British line, but the difference is that the Revalorise spots more efficiently, it doesn't have HESH rounds, or it goes rather weak when it comes to mobility. However, it's got a lot better gun depression, meaning that the Revalorise can shoot a little bit more flexible. So here we are, and we are looking at the M4A1 Sherman Revalorise's armor profile, and notice just how much armor is in the Revalorise, and I'll give you a hint. Nothing! Doesn't have any armor. It's a glass cannon, it's basically just an upgun Sherman with a 105mm. It's got a slightly upgun turret, just big enough to accommodate a very large gun, but it's basically just a Sherman, and there's no point. There's even nothing special about it, except maybe for the mantlet that it has around here. Because if you'll notice, if you'll try to like go hold down, notice how much armor is ranging here. It reaches up around from 200 to 238 if you're gonna try to look at over here. But notice that there's a weak spot here, so it's essentially just useless. This armor is just useless if people can shoot your cupola, which is rather big. And considering that if you'll try to hide this tank, it's kind of like it's gonna be a little bit of a hard tank to hide because of the low tall silhouette, as you'll notice right here. And quite frankly, it kind of resembles, well, it is basically an Israeli Sherman, as I'll show you right here. And oops, sorry about that High School DxD wallpaper around from my Google Chrome. So here it is. So this is the Super Sherman that saw action with the Israeli army. They upgunned this, and notice the gun barrel over there. Where's a suitable picture? There it is. Not big enough. There it is. Notice that fume extractor over there, and the turret shape as well. Now look at it. Look at this. It's almost similar. And basically, this is essentially just an Israeli Sherman. And frankly, I sometimes wonder how it would end up in a French tech tree when it could have been like a sort of a hybrid nation, or it could have been granted a sort of an Israeli tech tree where you can even get a fully upgraded Centurion at tier 10, which could be interesting to see, but I don't know if it will be implemented. Anyway, that's not the point right now, because this is about the Revalorise. So, in a nutshell, it's just a Sherman, nothing very special about it, and basically, the Revalorise just excels at sniping, but not too much. Like just a medium range sniping and tank destroying because of the gun with a caliber of 105mm. So it's got to have a very big alpha, but try not to rely on it too much though. and just try to play this tank much more like a conservative tank destroyer, like you're back in the back of a pack. Just let your teammates hunk up all the damage while you try to keep shooting as much as rounds as possible and try not to really bounce off or miss. So that was it for the armor inspector, and as well as the tank comparison for the Revalorise of its same tier. And very much, if you guys are gonna ask me if this tank is worth it, unless you really like to collect tanks, then I'd fully recommend the Revalorise. But if you really want to like play a tank like this, I really wouldn't recommend it because the armor is weak. There's no way for you to like bounce, maybe except for the mantlet over here. And it's quite hard to try to hide this tank, especially with the tall silhouette. But if you were a very big fan of tank destroyers, then I see no problem if you guys are going to expel some money in trying to buy the Revalorise. And for those tank destroyer fans, I fully recommend the Revalorise, especially for those who love glass cannons. So now it's time for some action. Let's go get into some gameplay. So here we are, and we are playing at Rockfield, and I opted maybe to go right, but maybe it's not the time because I normally don't go to the left. Sorry about that. So here we are. I'm going to take that bush over there and see if I can be able to get some spots up. Now I know that the Revalorise has amazing view range, so let's go take a look if we can spot some. There it is. Unfortunately, I get myself spotted. I put a shot on the C-49, and then I retreat. Notice that how I am retreating right here, and my speed is absolutely slow. It's not as fast as a CDC. This is one of the very hard things to realize when you're driving a Revalorise. You can't have the benefits of having an amazing top speed, unlike the rest of the French tech tree. And that's a defender. I do not want to go against him. And he's got his backup. He's got his friends to back him up, but don't worry, we have a KB5. So here we are. Now, notice as how I am going to play the Revalorise. I'm gonna try to play it as conservatively as possible while maintaining mid-range support or close-range support. Look at that. I fired on the Death Centurion and then retreated to hide and cover and reload. Now I need to try to go. Now I choose to be a little bit aggressive. I want to put a shot into this T-34 too. Can we put a shot into him? Yes, we can. Now this is the way how you're supposed to be playing it, actually. Just get to cover from time to time. Always try to utilize every inch of terrain. Can we finish him off? Yes, we can. Thank you, Mr. KB3. Now we have to try to hunt down the Centurion. But there's a defender right over there, and unfortunately, we take a shot on the defender. What could we possibly do right here? Put a shot to him, but unfortunately, it hits the side space armor. Now, in all honesty, I think that the defender is not really that overpowered. It's got its cons as well. But anyway, that's not the topic in case here. We push on to the C-43. Yes, we can. Now check out the time to reload. It's 9.3 seconds, and you don't really want to get caught in the open reloading for 9 seconds. That's one of the disadvantages for the Revalorise. Now, if it had a reload of like 7 or 6 seconds, I'd absolutely be okay with that, even when the alpha is only at 310, because on the PC version it gets 400 alpha, which is amazing for its tier, and it's actually got the best alpha than the rest of the premiums. Because I think if I did remember that T-43 only gets 390 and the Revalorise gets 400 alpha. Now that's an amazing change. So there we go. That Centurion didn't notice us, so we put a shot to him. We reload. So Revalorise is kind of like a tank turreted tank destroyer, as you notice right here. I'm taking my time to put my shots into the enemy. Maybe I opt not to go in there because I know that the Centurion and the IS-3 are going to shoot at me. Because of course I have paper armor and everyone wants to shoot at a paper target. So there we go. We put a shot to that Centurion, therefore reducing him to one shot. Now this KB3 has got to push onto him. This IS-3 defender is looking the other way. Can this KB3 finish him off? Yes, he can. Amazing. Now for this IS-3 defender. Now, this IS-3 could actually be able to finish us off, but I opted not to act really, really stupid right here. I'm gonna have to really support this KB3 in any way possible. So, unfortunately, I shot up to this IS-3, but unfortunately it just bounces off. We're gonna have to try to keep getting more over there. Put a shot to him. Yes, we can. We've got to reload again. Now, this is one of the disadvantages. Even though that you're supposed to play the Revalorise like a support tank, it's got a weak reload, which means that it'll take you somehow a longer time to try to support your teammates, and it's going to be rather hard to farm damage this way. So this IS-3 is going to make a mistake, and we finish him off finally. Now it's only the T-29 and the M6 left. I am partnered up with a Lova, which has enough armor to try to deal with both tanks, but I highly doubt unless they are shooting gold. So I need to get onto this hill right here because I want to spot the two other heavies for the Lova. So T-29 was last seen over there, on that side over there. I spot nothing so far. I should be hopeful, and I should hope that I could be able to get some spots up. And there it is. We see that M6 and the T-29. Can we push on to this T-29? Yes, we can. And then we retreat. There it is. Now this Lova is going to try to engage that T-29. Yes, he can handle him, and unfortunately this Lova just loads HE. And now we can shift our focus onto this M6. We can't let our friendly get killed. And there it is! A lucky bounce from the M6. Apparently he shot at our mantlet. So we put another shot into him. I load in heat because I know that I don't have the penetration to go through his front. And now this M6 may be a bit distracted, but he wants to keep shooting at me just because I have paper armor, but I'm gonna have to try my best not to get myself shot. And he screws up his shot. Thanks a lot. Now the Lova can finish him off. There you go. So that was quite of an amazing round over there. We had 3,705 damage, and we had a lucky bounce with 310 alpha. Now, you guys noticed just how it was hard for me to try to play the Revalorise as a support medium, especially when the reload time takes 9 seconds, and it's going to be very, very hard to try to farm damage, especially if you're gonna be placed in a sticky situation like I was on. So anyway, let's go take a look at the after game stats. So here it is. We picked up an ace tanker. We also picked up a high caliber for dealing the top damage, and as well as a Confederate medal for shooting a lot of the enemy team. We also made a revenue of 139,000 credits. We dealt 3,705 damage and destroyed 2 tanks. And also, I like the way how these ribbons are, and I'm absolutely grateful for Wargaming for finally adding a damage counter, so I could be able to record my damage and meeting a 2,000 damage mark. And here it is. We did deal the top damage and the high experience at 1,284. Now, this just showcases just how effective a Revalorise could be being a support tank, but if you're gonna try to play it like maybe a Centurion, you're going a little bit on the front, it's not really recommendable. But if you're going to play it as a sniper tank, it's okay, but try not to play too much because the Revalorise just doesn't have the dispersion to try to hit its shots. So anyway, let's go take a look at some more gameplay to see how the Revalorise performs in a platoon. So here we are, and we are playing at Middleburg, and I am platooned up with Relinquished and his M4A1 and a shout out to you, my friend. So anyway, this battle was actually something that I was surprised that we were actually able to pull off. So anyway, I chose to go under the hill and try to act as a support medium, like I always do in the Revalorise. Now, the funny thing that I like about the Revalorise is that the mere amount of nicknames that it has. So many people call it the Ravioli, the Revolver, the Retarded, retarded Sherman and so on and so forth, as long as it rhymes with the word Revalorise. And it's quite funny, to be honest. I prefer to calling the Revalorise Revolver. I try to put a shot on the Yag Tiger, but unfortunately it just hits the dirt. Now, look at that. It quite has a meh dispersion on the move. As you noticed how my shot was aimed center and onto the Yag Tiger, but unfortunately it just misses. So I wouldn't really recommend doing a lot of shooting on the move with the Revalorise. So I try to creep up right over here. We see this LTTB and his friend an IS-3 over there. But I try to shape my focus. I shift my focus onto that Yag Tiger. Sorry about that. And apparently we bounced something over there from the LTTB, so we quite got lucky with it there. So there's the IS-3, put a shot to him. Yes, we can. We track him. And now we hide in to reload again. And unfortunately, this LTTB bounces again on our side. We're getting a lucky bounce right here. He's not really designed to bounce shots. And there he is. His shot actually penetrates us, while our shot just bounces off. But can we finish him off, though? He's reduced to one shot. Can we? Yes, we can. One pesky light down. And pretty much, look at this. Things aren't really doing good for us. I fired HE onto the AMX's side. Can I try to fire onto him again? Unfortunately, I can't. Now I shift my focus onto this Yag Tiger 88. Put a shot onto him. There it goes. Now all of them are buckled up on onto one position. Now, this is actually the worst tactic possible, because many of the enemy team can just pick you up on one corner and so on and so forth. Now notice how most of the enemy team is already getting reduced down to one shots. I hide onto the corner, as I want to avoid getting shot by the AMX, and I noticed that this T69 wants to flank, so I'm gonna try to go take care of him despite my disability to shoot back fast enough. Put a shot to him, but unfortunately he takes out my driver. I get him patched up, and this T69 wants to put another shot, but we put another shot to him and finish him off. And now my platoon mate is gonna need some help. We've got to help him up. Come on. Alright. There he goes. Put a shot to him. And we got another lucky bounce. That's the third bounce. Normally, that's not supposed to happen in a Revalorise, but anyway, we finish him off. Now it's time for this Yag Tiger 88's turn. Hey, put a shot to him. Come on, gun, reload. Come on, gun. For some reason, they're not even noticing me. I hide because of that IS-3, and now it's time for us to win this battle. We've got to find where the Yag Tiger 88 is. Come on, come out of the corner. There he is. Alright. It should be easy meat. Come on, reload faster, gun. Reload. Come on. Maybe I might want to try to shoot HE. And there you go. So that was quite an absolute monster of a round there. At first I thought we were going to fall and lose to the enemy, but unfortunately, and thankfully to my cooperation with Relinquished over there, we managed to pull off a sick carry, and we carried the rest of the team without even having to tie our hands behind our backs. So anyway, let's go take a look at the after game stats. So here he is. We picked up 3,048 damage, we destroyed 4 tanks and made 63,000 credits. We got a crucial contribution and the brothers in arms, and as well as the Top Gun for scoring 4 kills, and as well as the rest of the ribbons right here. And also, we got the top damage for 3,048, and our platoon mate only got 2,782, but it was an amazing round, so Relinquished, a very big kudos to you once again. So after playing, and as well as reviewing what the Revalorise is, maybe it's time to raise the question, is the Revalorise worth it? Well, for an average player, the Revalorise is not worth it. I mean, there are other tanks. If you're an average player and you're going to take a Revalorise into battle, you're going to have a hard time trying to adapt to its playstyle. The Revalorise is a glass cannon. It's not a medium tank. It's a glass cannon, it's more like a turreted tank destroyer, and you're gonna have to treat it more like a turreted tank destroyer instead of a medium tank, but there are some certain occasions where the Revalorise does work like a medium tank, but as much as possible, treat the Revalorise much more like a support tank. But if you guys like playing hard to play tanks, pretty much like me, I fully recommend the Revalorise, and who couldn't say no to a credit efficient of 170%? Now the Revalorise makes really great credits, I have to say that. And quite frankly, if you guys are looking for some nice credit makers, then I'd recommend the Revalorise, but only for those players who have experience in playing glass cannons. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider giving it a like down below, subscribe, and let me know in the comments down below what you think of the M4A1 Sherman Revalorise. And also a big shout out to my friend Relinquished for being able to platoon with me and basically helping me out in trying to do this video as well. And as well as a shout out to my close friend Thorin Box. This was for you because I know that you love French tanks, and quite frankly, you may be interested in taking a look at the Revalorise someday. And as always guys, thank you so much guys for watching. You've all been awesome, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video and in the battlefield.